Today we're going to be looking at the Raspberry Pi and specifically looking at installing DOS on it or emulating DOS. A good place to start is looking at Dosbian. Now this is made by Carmelo Malalino. Apologies if I'm mispronouncing your name, but he's made an awesome distribution that basically emulates a 486 machine and it just boots straight into that environment. It's using DOSBox, which is a DOS emulator, and we're going to be running this on our Pi 400. Now you just go to the website, keep on scrolling down, and we're on 1.5 as of this video. I have heard that there is a newer version in the works, but I know that he's really pressed for time at the moment, and he's just doing this in his spare time, and I believe it's just one guy that's doing this at the moment. So it is supported with all these different versions of the Raspberry Pi. And of course, yeah, I recommend, just if you've got a little bit of money, just donate some money to him, because, it takes a lot of hard work, sort of like doing these and making these things. You've got the download link there. So you download that and then use your favorite Raspberry Pi tool. So use Raspberry Pi. And then under operating systems, you use custom, select your storage obviously, and then write that to an SD card. Then what we're going to do is go take that out and we're going to put that into the Pi 400. Comes up with a nice splash screen that reminds me of the old BIOS screens. And there we go. We're in our DOS environment straight away. It's mounted the C drive as home/pi/Dosbian. So there's a ton of stuff in there. So if I do a dir, you'll see there's some games. There's no copyrighted stuff on here at all. So I think it's just got like a demo version of Doom in here and some other programs as well, like Launchbox, to help you out. So one of the first things we need to do with this is expand the SD card. So the image is quite small that's put onto the SD card, and we want to use all of the space of the SD card that we've got. So to do that, we go to Exit. And then we come to this nice Dosbian menu system that is created. So there's a lot of options here. And what we're going to do is we're going to go to type C for Raspberry config. Then we've got system options. We need to go down to advanced options, I believe. Yeah, and then we're after the expand file system. So that's the first thing to do. Root partition has been resized. So it's then asking for another reboot. So if we push tab, then along to the right, finish. Are we sure we want to reboot? Yes, we do. Okay, and that boot will take a little bit longer than normal because what it's doing is actually resizing the partition. So don't worry about that taking a little bit longer than normal. And we're booted back into DOS again. Now, in my experimentation of this, I've found that there's a few little quirks with this, and things aren't quite working perfectly on the Pi 400. Now, as I said earlier, this is just one guy developing this, and maybe he hasn't got a lot of time to spend on it. The last version was in 2020, so as the time of this video, that was 2 years ago. And there's some known bugs in this that we're going to go through together and hopefully fix and get a nice setup. The first thing we want to do is we want to get network connectivity, because at the moment I've got my Raspberry Pi, I've got the SD card with this setup and everything, but maybe I've got a ton of games and I want to get stuff into the Raspberry Pi. Now, first off, networking on the Ethernet ports just isn't working, and that is because of a kernel bug. Unfortunately, the kernel version that was used when this image was created has got a known bug in it. So updating on the Ethernet is pretty much not possible. So what we need to do is we need to add Wi-Fi. So to add Wi-Fi, like any other Raspberry Pi setup, we go to the Raspberry Pi config, go to system options, wireless LAN, then you enter your SSID and your password for your Wi-Fi, and then that gets us on to Wi-Fi, and hopefully we've got some network connectivity. So I'm going to do that next and then come back. Now, with all of those Wi-Fi settings added, there is one more step that we need to do, and it's something that unfortunately the Raspberry Pi does out of default. It blocks Wi-Fi unless this setting is enabled. And you've got to go to the localization options, and then you've got to go down to WLAN country, and then find the country. So now I'm in the UK, so and it's classed as Great Britain here. So we go to G, Britain, UK. There we go. The wireless LAN country is set. You may find that you need to go back into system options and maybe add the wireless LAN settings in after that. Maybe the order of that changes. But yeah, hopefully then the result is that you will have Wi-Fi at the end of it. So if we go back and we go to finish, we're going to do one more reboot. Then we'll just go to exit. So we go back into the Dosbian menu. Then I'm going to choose quit because I'm going to go to a console. Now, apologies for the size of this. I'll try and enlarge it a little bit. What I'm going to type in is ping, and then we'll just go ping google.com. And as you can see, there we go. We are pinging google.com. So I'm now on the internet. Now we can go back into the Raspberry Pi config. If I type in sudo rasp config, I'm going to go down to interface options, and I'm going to enable SSH, and we choose yes. Now the default user is still set, so if we go into system options and we go to password, we're just going to change the user for the Pi user, because it's good security practice to not use default passwords. There we go, and the password's changed. So we can kind of stop in the setup process and use our Windows machine to connect to the Raspberry Pi via SSH, use a program like WinSCP, and copy all of our DOS programs over and everything, and that'll do you really well and everything. But if you really want Ethernet, and also a part of me wants to kind of update this system a little bit more, then we'll just follow along a little bit more, because I'm going to show you a couple of other things we're going to do. We've got a broken kernel at the moment with regards the Ethernet. I want to run some updates. Now, in the testing of this, and some of my keys aren't working. There we go, update. Sudo apt update to check in. Now, because this version of Raspberry Pi is getting quite old now, I mean, I say 2 years old, that doesn't feel old to me. Doing this sudo update asks you a question really of saying, like, okay, we're running Debian Buster here, but actually that's turned from a stable version to an old stable. You're running on an old version, and I've got to change all the software package repositories so that it reflects that you're running on old software. We say yes to that, and yes again, because I think there's 2 packages. And then it goes and grabs the latest packages, list of packages and everything. So we're not installing anything at the moment. This is just connecting to the internet to then find out what packages are needed. Now, if I'll try and highlight it, there is 206 packages to update on this system. And as well, I've noticed that it's failed to try and connect to PyDOS platesteel.net. Now, I'm guessing that's a Debian repository that was used in the past, maybe by Dosbian, and it's no longer there. So I don't know what's going on with that. So we've got some missing packages. What I have tried doing before is updating 206 of those packages. So doing a sudo apt upgrade, and I found that it broke this distribution, sadly. I'm going to do a sudo at, we can do an info, and I think we're looking for the Raspberry Pi kernel. Pi dash kernel. Or maybe I had it round the right way and I didn't type pi. Yeah, there we go. Apologies for that. Okay, so we've got Raspberry Pi dash kernel. So we just want to update that package. So we want to update the kernel. Is sudo apt install. The package is, a kernel's already installed, but what the install command does is it makes sure that it installs the latest version. So, and that's Raspberry Pi dash kernel. There we go. And it's now downloading that new kernel. So we're not updating any of the other packages. I'm not sure which package breaks Dosbian and the DOSBox, but basically when I updated all the packages, I'd just end up with a black screen. Whereas this way, we're being more selective and we're just trying to fix the Ethernet solution. And there we can see we've got a link. So you can see that the key things in getting the network card working again is updating the Raspberry, spelling error there, doing a sudo apt update. Then rather than doing a sudo apt upgrade and upgrading every package, because that does break the distribution, you do sudo apt install Raspberry Pi dash kernel to update your kernel, Raspberry Pi dash sys dash mods, Raspberry Pi dash bootloader as well, and then I've updated SSH to the latest version as well, just for peace of mind of security. That allows us to then have not rely on wireless. Do a reboot, and we'll reboot back into the DOS environment and actually play with some DOS rather than Linux. So now back on the Windows PC, I'm just going to go through how to now transfer stuff on to your Raspberry Pi Dosbian. So Winwell PC is a site that I've shown in the past before, and I've just chosen sort of like under libraries and then under game. You've got some DOS games that you can download here. I'm not going to download Doom, but I think today what we'll do is on the page 2 there was Jill of the Jungle, a classic DOS game. So if we go to that, and then what we're going to do is we're just going to download that or extract that to a folder. Then within that folder, is Jill of the Jungle, and then there's a whole ton of files in here, and that jill1.exe is our DOS game, basically. Some strange weird characters at the top there, but Jill of the Jungle Epic is added there. So what we can do now is we need a program like WinSCP. Download that and install that. And there's a new version of it. Thank you very much. Okay, and then the host name is going to be Dosbian. Username is going to be Pi. And then if you've changed the password, which I highly recommend that you did earlier on, just type in your new password. Then make sure it's on SFTP. And then click on login. Yes, we trust this computer. There we go. And on the right hand side, we can see Dosbian folder. And we've got games. So this is when we're accessing earlier the C drive in the DOS environment. So basically this here, remember it's mapped to home/pi/Dosbian. If I go back to my PC, this is that folder here. So anything we put in here, so under games, They've already provided us a shareware version of Doom and a shareware version of Wolf 3D. So now what I want to do is get my game that I've downloaded, Jill of the Jungle. There we go. And I might rename that to just Jill. So it's nice and short. So yeah, that's the contents of that folder. So I want to drag that over to there. Yes, transferred, fantastic. So now if we go over to the Raspberry Pi again, okay, so if I do a dir, it's games, so I need to cd into games, dir again. There's our Jill folder, so space Jill, and then it was Jill 1, wasn't it? So Jill 1, press enter. There we go. Do you want digital sound? Yes, please. Sound Blaster compatible? Yes, I want a musical track. Yes, please. Color mode, we've got VGA, so we can go with VGA. There we go, and we've got Jill of the Jungle. So if I do demo, there should be sound with this. Okay, we can slow this down with control. So from that last footage, you saw that the game was playing really fast, but now I can slow it down, and that's by pressing Control and F11 to slow down the emulation speed, or the CPU speed. So I'm going to leave it there for today. If you haven't checked out my previous December videos, then I recommend checking that out now. And I hope that you have fun in trying this out for yourself. And yeah, have a great day, everybody.